Welcome to the Dance Reel podcast. I'm Kate Histon-Behrend. Today I'll be speaking with Gaudiello and Gabriel Rogers, founders of Lunar The Brand and both ex-professional ballet dancers. We will be focusing our conversation around mental health for dancers. Welcome, Daniel and Gabriel. It's so lovely to have you on my podcast today.
Hey, thanks for having us.
And you are currently in Rome.
Yes.
Woohoo.
Yeah, the land of ruins.
The land of ruins. Just quickly, what are you doing in Rome?
I'm here for the Pre-Lausanne, and that's in Switzerland, and that's next week. And we've just started our new dance brand called Lunar, and a male dance brand called Gents. And so I thought, why don't we go around the world and promote our brand and help us to get off the ground, but also make it a bit of fun as well. I think it has to be work, has to be play.
That sounds wonderful. I love your brand because it is built upon your powerful stories, each of you individually and collectively. Mental health, being a male dancer, they're really key parts of the development of your brand. But before we go into that, let's go into your story. I would really love to know what your background was like, how you both started dance.
Well, for me, it was really roundabout. My story was very different to every other ballet dancer at the Australian Ballet, for sure, which at first I thought was a problem, but then realized it was a strength later. I actually started by watching Johnny Young Talent Time on TV, which was every Saturday night, 7:30. And I thought I wanted to be a singer and dancer and go on the show. So I pestered my parents to take me to Johnny Young Talent Time school and realized that it really wasn't for me. I was way more of the artist than I was the commercial sort of guy. They used to send me for ads and I would just close up. I was, all art, but so scared. I was so scared I just hadn't worked myself out yet. You have to be very sure of yourself to be in that industry and sing straight into the singing, which for me scared me at the time. Now I've realized I actually have a voice, but back then I was just in a group of kids just going, this isn't me at all. So I lasted about a year and a half and then quit. The good thing was that I always felt like I chose dance and I chose the industry. Nobody brought me to class and said, try this. I found it myself. And I think that's a really good way for students to start, is by realizing that I want this, not, mum wants me to give this a go.
Yeah.
And so I quit. And then I had about a year where I wasn't doing anything, and the family had started a small school, Rosanna Castellana. And she said, do you want to come on board and start with tap dancing? So I started with tap dancing. And then contemporary, and then jazz. And then she was like, maybe you should do some ballet. It's really good for your other genres. It'll get your technique up. And so I started ballet at the end, which I hated. I thought it was boring and slow. And I was a bit ADD. I was like, I need to move faster than this. Tap was great. Jazz was great. So yeah, ballet slowly started to become my passion when I realized how difficult it was. It was definitely the challenge. Tell me I can't do something and I will be there trying to do it. And I think that's actually a lot of ballet dancers. We have that in common. We got a lot to prove to ourselves, to the world. I had brilliant teachers actually that passed me on at the right time to the right places, but kept me small, never pushed me to do competitions or anything young, because I wasn't very talented. I wasn't ready to be seen, which was fine. And that's why now I really value teachers and students that say, I don't want to do competitions. I just want to focus on my technique and be an artist in the studio first. And then when you're ready to get out there and put yourself on the stage, then do it. So yeah, I had a really different upbringing, more jazz and commercial. And I brought that to my ballet and it definitely enhanced my career. Went to the Queensland Ballet, the professional year at the Queensland Ballet. It was a Queensland Dance School of Excellence at the time, which led to QB. And then people told me you should go down to the Australian Ballet. I just followed what people were telling me. They said, oh, okay. So I went down to the Australian Ballet School, did another 3 years. And by 21, it was ready and I got into the Australian Ballet Company. It was a long time. I think students forget how long it takes to get a ballet dancer to that level, especially someone like me who had every problem under the sun. I did a blog talk once and I went through all the issues I had: ribs, elbows, thumbs, you name it. It didn't come naturally to me. I had a lordotic back, had to try and fix that with a lot of core work, at knees that didn't stretch even into my career. And I had feet that I had big toe joints that didn't bend back. My joints don't bend back very far. If you can see, I worked that out later. And I went to the Australian Ballet School and they said, oh, you're going to struggle because your big toes don't bend back enough. And I was like, I was already writing myself off. And my turnout was like
Sorry, that's so
60.
funny.
I know. I know. This is what happens as a kid. You just listen to everyone like, oh my God, I've got problems.
But
Now,
of all the things, your big toe, do you know what I mean?
I know. I heard that and I was like, oh, great. Anything more? Oh, yeah, your turnout's not great either. You're 15 degrees difference on both hips. So you're probably going to have a lot of issues into your career. I was just like, I walked out of that and and I asked the other boys, how did you go? And they was like, oh, I'm 80-80 on both sides, my turnout. I was like, all right. I was like, I just decided to ignore everything and just back myself. And that led into my career. But definitely the cracks showed, I was faking it till I made it, as they say. And that's hard to convince people that you can be a classical dancer when you know that there are structural things holding you back. But that's what I love now about teaching is that I just don't listen to that. I'm like, guys, if you want it, we'll find a way. We'll find a way around everything. If the passion, if you've got the heart, and that is something that I had in spades, and energy and vibrance, and I had an acting ability, a natural acting ability. So I went for it in my career, but I had a lot to hide, and that would make me very insecure in front of some people and in front of some coaches. And if they picked up a whiff of that, I was in trouble. I was great the first day. They're like, wow, who is this guy? And then you start to see my cracks through my technique and everything. And that's when things would turn sour, So
But it sounds
interesting.
like from a young age, you knew your strengths. And so you went in there with your strengths.
Yeah. Yeah. I knew I could perform. I knew
Mm.
I had energy above other people, but I even had a thing called thalassemia minor, which is actually like an anemic blood
Oh,
disorder. I know. And I had that against me as well, which stopped my stamina. I had to breathe more than a normal person, and your blood turns over every 14 days, not 28 days. So I was fighting against all this stuff, but you know what? It's just, I was fine. There are people pushing through more adversity, and that's what I love at the end of this, that I can say all this now, put it
yeah.
all out there. I don't have anything more to hide. And it's
Yeah.
about, through our brand, is giving young dancers confidence that they have a place in this industry. No matter what you are given, you have a place. You just have to find it.
I love hearing that. That is really inspiring. And what about you, Gabe?
So I started, I think, just dancing in my lounge room, as most kids do, like Michael Jackson and all that kind of stuff. And then I think mum was like, you should try some dance classes. So I started with like an all boys hip hop class, because that was like probably the smoothest transition into dancing. And then I think it just became like a natural progression. Like you try more styles, or you get suggested to do more. And then I think the biggest thing why I really got into ballet is obviously at the start, it's a really weird thing walking into a room with 20 girls and you're in like this tight lycra, you feel really exposed, and it's like a super uncomfortable thing. And mix that with, I guess, not talking about it or not being accepted as much, like with your mates, like at school, which is also what we're trying to do with this men's brand, is to make dancing more accessible to men. And
Made by men, like you
yeah,
understand the male form, right?
yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. Yeah. And then I guess why I continued with ballet was because it was so hard. Like that was the real driving factor. And so at school, just wanting to be like the best at sports, and then that transitioned really well to ballet, which is I think something that not a lot of people understand, is how, or people that don't dance, how athletic dancing is. That was the big draw card for, yeah,
Yeah.
pursuing ballet, was just like, oh, I really suck at this. I want to get good. I want to be good at this. Like, because I was, yeah, as you are when you start, so bad. And then I went overseas. I was pushed to go overseas, so I went overseas and trained there. Had a very short career, very like only 1 or 2 years. Then came home.
And are you noticing any changes now in the industry in terms of teaching and standards of teaching and communication with the younger generation?
Yeah, I'm really impressed now. I think where the Australian Ballet is going with that. I think the dancers are starting to realize when something's not right, when it doesn't feel right within the coaching or the teaching of a ballet or the feel of the company, and they're starting to speak up. I think now dancers are getting a voice which we were told not to talk when I was dancing. Now we're getting prompted to talk about our feelings more. And I think that's great. I think Australian Ballet have really embraced that. And the dancers have more power, which just helps you to feel, I don't know, a little bit more comfortable in the industry instead of like you should always be grateful to be here. And, you know, it always just keeps putting you down and them up. Like you'll never reach this.
Yeah.
The best coaches I had made me feel like the choreography was never above me, that the ballet was not above me, that I had something to offer. And that's when I danced my best. So I think things are changing for the best. And we want to encourage that. Respect and tradition should stay, but we need to have a voice and we need to recognize workplace bullying. And yeah, there are some teachers now at the Australian Ballet that aren't allowed to come back and aren't allowed to put on ballets anymore because of the wording they used and the feelings they brought into the studio, which in my time we just had to grin and bear and deal with it. So yeah, I'm positive for the future, and I think we're heading in the right direction.
So, for younger dancers and maybe their parents listening to this, what are some of the red flags? How would they know an ethical teacher as opposed to a power over teacher? What could you describe as some maybe red flags in your experience?
Well, I've had some students tell me, "Oh, you know, I like tough. You're too easy on me." And it's like, so they're used to that. It's almost they're used to the abuse sometimes, and so they become a bit of a victim, and they're happy to sit in that. They want to almost be talked down to because they think that's what ballet should be. The negative should be taking over the positive, and I totally disagree. And I feel sorry for those students. I'm like, the damage is sort of already done if you feel like you need that. It should always be coming from the student. The passion should be coming from the student, and the teacher should be there to guide and give feedback, but not there to control you with their words.
Yeah, I know for me as a dancer, I probably started a Stedford work too young, at 6, 7. And then I was doing well from a young age and then went through this patch of, puberty area where I maybe dipped, but everything felt like my life was becoming about the external validation, the trophy, mum's happy, my ballet teachers not applauding me, telling all the other students how well I'm doing, because it was always about comparison and used as a tactic to motivate others, And I know, well, I had a breakdown at 16 and had panic attacks and it was called the GIO, back then, GIO, City of Sydney, Stedford, GIO sponsored it. And I had just come off the stage and did my Lilac Fairy repertoire and just knew then this is the last time I'm performing now. I'm done, because it was just the mental impact for me of having had the pressure from this sort of archaic method ballet school, and then a well-meaning but overly bearing at the time dance mum that just was in her own anxiety of wanting me to do well, because there's this, you're going to audition for this company overseas and we're about to start that process, and everyone was invested in me, but no one was really asking me, and I wasn't even asking me. I didn't know how to ask me, do I still love this? And it was all about pleasing others. So I love hearing what you're saying, because I know for me as a teacher, I can be firm and have expectations of students and strict without being mean, having that firm, so holding that structure for them and that container, so it is a safe, consistent place for them to learn without squashing them, for them to work harder, because the motivation has to be intrinsic. It's got to come from them.
That's actually quite sad for you to hear. I didn't know that story. I think that's the danger, isn't it, with the performing so young and even repertoire at a really young age. It's a lot to ask, because they're principal roles that we're going out there and doing. We're judging ourselves like you would a principal, and but that's something you really grow into. And that's the industry as well. The teaching industry is we're pushing the kids to be better, younger, better, younger. And the pressure is getting to them and no need. Mm.
And I know for me, being a dance judge now, I mean, I do love that role, but the reason I'm drawn to it is because I actually want to educate the parents and the next generation that this is just an opportunity to perform. So students can just perform, but not focus on the end game, focus on the progress, focus on what they're developing, how they're doing, not in the moment via the external thing of I've won, but through you're going to have your peaks, you're going to have your troughs, and this is about performance. So anyway, I get a little bit passionate about bringing that education to the younger generation, and I really appreciate what your brand is doing to raise awareness for mental health and education for younger dancers.
That's really what it is. It's education. Yeah. I think once I understood psychology at a later age, I realized how important it was to get this at a younger age. And you start to see the patterns and already the small traumas from the past that are going to go into the future. You've got to be able to control them. Otherwise, they'll start to control you. And if we can just bring that to the younger generation, then they're going to have such a better career. For me, I don't want to see sensitive people get lost in this industry because they're not tough enough to withstand it, because I want to see an artist out there. I want to see that softness, and that takes so much confidence in yourself.
I like what you said too about healing those little traumas, so you can really, as an artist, step into and have more space and experience to draw upon for that artistry on stage. And there's also an element that not all dancers become professional dancers. Some do pivot into teaching. And it's also important there so that you're not passing your wounds on to the next generation, and you're not teaching from your wounds. You're not teaching from a sense of inadequacy, because that shame is what then perpetuates the behavior of inconsistent and power over teaching methods to students that could be unconscious.
Yeah, I'm really aware of that when I teach, and I'm actually really transparent with my students, maybe too transparent because of everything I've gone through. I just remove the curtain and get them to understand that I didn't start. It wasn't just easy, that I had to really build myself up into this industry. And sometimes they react really well. And then sometimes they look at me like, maybe you weren't that good then. I was like, no, we've all got things. But yeah, as a teacher, I notice now how I teach, and I'm like, oh, that's because you weren't that good at that, Daniel. Yeah. And I say that to them, and I'm just really transparent as a teacher. And I think that's what we have to be as teachers, to not make students feel like they can't do it. That there is just a journey and step-by-step process, but never that you can't do it. That to me is really important. Yeah, absolutely. Keep that door open, not to shut that door. You will never be that, even body types. And I don't tell the students, well, your body's not built for ballet. I'm sorry, because you just don't know what that body's going to do. From my experience, I've seen students start with a body that's not right for ballet, whatever that means, and end up in a career with a brilliant body. By 25, everything has sort of finished growing. So I think it's just really important, the sort of language you use as a teacher when you're trying to encourage students to reach for the big apple.
So what do you think the biggest misconceptions young dancers have about a professional ballet career?
I would say a lot of young dancers think that it's going to be easy, and that this might be controversial, but they'll enjoy it, because there's a lot that goes on that people aren't really aware of, thinking that it's just going to be an easy ride and that it'll be fun and you'll just perform, maybe once a week or something like that. But there's a lot of self-care that's needed within a career that I think a lot of people don't realize. And the amount of strain mentally and physically that it has on you as a person.
So what does a day-to-day life look like for a professional ballet dancer?
I think it depends on where you're dancing. I know you were saying, Dan, with the Oz Ballet, they perform over 100 shows a year. Some other companies have maybe 60 or less. So I think it really depends on where you're dancing.
What was yours like when you were...
When I was dancing, Well, long. I think that is another misconception that you're going to have all this time. You've got no time as a dancer. You get one day off a week.
Mm.
Otherwise, you're either recovering from a show or building up.
Right.
It's like that. And so, yeah, getting up, you're always getting over what happened the night before, day before. As a dancer, I think a lot of students think they're going to get up and feel great. No, you'll get up, you'll be tired, you'll be fatigued. There might be always something you're dealing with, a minor injury, strain, tightness in your muscles. We always talk about the bluebird shuffle, like to the bathroom in the morning, because like after you've done all those, these ballet and cease, your Achilles are so tight the next day that you got the shuffle to the bathroom to get in the hot shower. So it is like that, and then you do it all again, and it's that, and sometimes it's that. For me, it was the groundhog that I struggled
Yeah.
with mentally in the industry. I'd always think about my life on the bar in plies, doing those first plies. Like, what am I doing? Am I happy? I'm here again. We're all in this room again, and I'm doing plies again. And you're going to do that every day. That's always my advice to students: is be aware of that and clock it. And okay, remind yourself. No, I still like this. You know what I mean? Or that's when you know. I think that's when you make that decision at the start of the day on the bar. You're like, do I still want this?
Yeah.
And I knew one day I didn't. I was like, no. I was more interested in helping the guy next to me than I was dancing for myself. And that's how I knew it was time to leave and maybe become a coach or a teacher.
And you both sound like real humanitarians.
I think we've been through a lot. I think Gabe
Yeah.
especially had went through all the same things that I went through, just at a younger age. It took me a long time to learn these things. He learnt it at 20, 21.
Gabe, I'd love to hear.
Yeah, I guess I don't know what that would be. Maybe it's, I don't know, having more resources. I guess I overthink a lot, so maybe that's what it was.
I think he worked the industry out because
Maybe.
there has to be a certain amount of ignorance, and to get through sometimes what's happening to you as a dancer, you have to like switch off the human side of it, because you're like, well, I just need to get through this, and I need to be all these things today. I can't sit there really thinking about how I'm feeling because I won't make it through today.
Yeah.
And I think he works that out at 20, that's what it's like. I worked it out at 30, and I sort of woke up from the matrix a little bit, like,
Yeah, it is that feeling, isn't it?
oh,
Waking
yeah.
up from the
And
matrix.
he woke up earlier.
And I think it's how much you're willing to sacrifice with a professional career. I guess in anything, when you want to be successful, you have to make sacrifices. And it's just knowing yourself and knowing how much you're willing to sacrifice to get what you want, really, at the end of the day, isn't it?
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
So, Gabe,
Mm.
you had some not great experiences when you were overseas. I'd love to hear your story.
Yeah, sure. There's definitely this mentality of being a outsider, I guess you'd say in English. Like, it's not as welcoming. I think there's definitely a European arrogance that comes with, we've created ballet and, we're the best at it, and you're just like second class, I guess. And then that translates into a lack of compassion when teaching. You're stupid, you're slow, you're an idiot.
So, you got named, it was personalized, your teachers.
Yeah, for sure. And it definitely
Oh.
wasn't just me. Even European kids, there was definitely a hierarchy, and that was very much played into of, I'm superior, and you're not going to make it. No one's going to make it. Like there's just like this feeling from them that they were superior. I remember that was crazy. I remember my Aussie mate and I used to get a lot of flack from our teacher for being fat. And we were like, like small as, like, you're not fat, you're like super athletic, but there would just be a constant talk. And then the girls was even worse. I remember there was an expectation to be a certain weight, 50 kilos, and you don't do partnering, like the boys, you won't be lifted. And that's like a flat rate, no matter how tall you are. Because there were some tall girls, like that you would have to be anorexic, like you would, to be 50 kilos and, 175, 180 centimeters, that's impossible. So there was definitely no compassion in that regard. And I think that that's overarching when I talk to a lot of my friends, even now, like my age, or even going through schools now, they're younger, so like 16 now. It's definitely a common theme in Europe for sure, is weight still, and in America, in the States. And I think even in Australia, like definitely there are big schools that people still get those chats of you're going to have to leave now, or there's no education. There's no, this is how to sustain a healthy, you feed yourself nutritionally. This is like a proper diet plan that you're going to need because of how much exercise you're doing. You know what I mean? I know a lot of girls got told to just eat once a day, and it was some Russian soup that has about like 4 calories in it. It's just boiled flavored water at the end of the day. And yeah, a lot of girls I knew got told to do that, and it was like, or just smoke.
You'd have no energy.
Cigarettes, like.
And this is not that long ago.
No.
And that's where I think we still got a long way to go as an industry, the dance industry. We have to talk about this. It's not nice to talk about, but we have to. We have to tell these stories. That's the only way things are going to change. But yeah, you don't want to point that finger. That teacher probably went through the same thing with their teacher. And we sort of do know that, yeah, some body types are more suited maybe to the ballet industry, but things are changing. We are in a different world now than when they were training. But yeah, that's just so sad to hear that we're still talking like that. I know so many, especially women, that have gone through really puffy times with their bodies. I mean, they're not happy. They're going through a lot. You're dealing with a lot psychologically at a young age. And by 25, 24, everything has swung back around, and the work, the training has, refined their body, and they look great. You know what I mean? So teachers have to remember, you do not know what's in front of you. You could change. Yeah. But yeah, let's just always keep coming back to what you really need out of a dancer, which is the fundamentals, the heart, the drive, the strength, as a person and as a body.
Yeah.
Let's come back to that.
That's beautiful. Yeah.
We are chatting at the moment with a lot of the leading ballerinas in the world, and they are ready to talk about it as well, because we've all struggled. You know what I mean? We've all had moments of insecurity about our bodies, and the young ones need to know that it's coming. You know what I mean? And your child's body will go, and your woman's body or your men's body will come along, and you have to welcome that change, not be afraid of it.
And how do you think students' parents can support them in this? What accountability do they also have?
Well, there's a lot. I think it's really important for parents to, stay out of the training side of it. Trust the teacher that's in front of you. A lot of the parents would want to take over from that. Know what you can do to help your child, support them. My parents were there when I wanted to quit. They say, "Sure, you want to quit?" And I'd be like, "No." And they're like, "Okay, we'll go back then." And I was like, "Okay." It was that sort of, instead of like, "No, you will do this, you will go there." And then they're in there, they're watching. Micromanaging. Yes. Yeah. Which really makes your child, I think, feel
trapped.
Yes.
Yeah. I think they have to have the freedom to know what they want, because it has to come from them. Absolutely. Like, otherwise they'll just crash after 6 months, like professionally or, semi-professionally after a year. They'll just flip the other way. Once they do have that freedom, they'll want to run in the opposite direction.
I think when it comes to the food side of it, as a parent, is realizing that you've got an athlete living with you. So they're not going to eat what you eat. They have to eat a lot of the time more. And some parents start to say, well, you're going to be a dancer, right? So we have to start putting you on some sort of a diet. No, the diet is eat when you're hungry and to actually fuel your body like an athlete. Instead of straight away they think about, well, taking away, put in. It's like what you're going to put, what can you put into your body, not what can you take away from it. Like normal people have to think maybe about dieting, and it's about cutting out things. But a dancer, it's completely opposite. And that's what I think parents need to get the right information from a nutritionist that knows, not a nutritionist for a normal person, a nutritionist for an athlete, for a dancer.
Yeah. And putting the right stuff in. It's like you got to put high octane in the Ferrari. You can't be putting that low level stuff in 91. Yeah, you got. You're an athlete. You need to fuel yourself with the right food. Otherwise, you'll crash or get injured because you don't. Your muscles won't have the energy to actually sustain the amount of physical exercise, and you will hurt yourself.
Yeah. And I find it interesting talking about how the parents can support their children with their dance journey, staying out of the training completely, not critiquing when they're performing on stage. My mum, bless her, thought that it was in my best interest to give me feedback. So I'd get the feedback from the mum, and it was like, you need to point your feet harder. You didn't stretch your knees. You're looking at the ground too much. And there was this focus. So for me as a dancer, I got that at the dance studio, a lot, and really bad actually. And then from an overly excited mum, I'm going to say that because she's a lovely person, but it's just that lack of, and especially back then in the 80s, 90s, that lack of awareness of parenting, especially when you're parenting, let's call it an athlete that wants to be really, really good at something. So I always recommend to parents, just be their cheerleader, get them to their performances on time, make sure they're fed, get out of their way, like let them perform, because this is about them developing. And if you want to give feedback, make the feedback about, I really liked how you did that. That was lovely. Just keep it positive, because they're going to get a lot of the critiquing in the classroom. And so for me, on hindsight, that was one big downward trajectory with my mental health, which collapsed at 16. And I could say robbed me of a career for sure, which I don't feel resentful about. I had to work with a therapist to really overcome those feelings, but that's definitely one reason why I'm very passionate about bringing up these issues that are sometimes a little bit harder to talk about, but very important, because ultimately we all want to do the best thing for the next generation. And I do believe that my mum was doing the best she could. I can't say that with all of my teachers. I can't, but I have been so blessed to have some wonderful inspirational teachers as well that really showed me you can make a career. One teacher I want to give a shout out to was Marie Walton-Mahon. I did train full time with her, and she was wonderful. She did used to say to me, Kate, you just need more confidence. And I didn't know at the time why I didn't have confidence and what this feeling was of confidence. But I remember thinking, for me, what would that look like if I was more confident? I just didn't quite click. I was really lacking self-confidence. And you've got your performance confidence and then your self-confidence as a person. You need both. And the self-confidence of as a person is what drives the performance confidence. But if your self-confidence is getting squashed and squashed and squashed by unaware, unconscious teaching, or even being not the best support person for the dancer, their self-worth is going to go down, and they can be a really, really good dancer that misses out on an opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I've got a few names come to mind when I think about that. And I think, why didn't that person make it? One of them, I went back to years later because I was too young to understand what was going on. I said, why did you stop? And she just said, oh, I just don't think like my teacher believed in me. She believed in the other one, the other girl. And I was like, oh, because I looked at her as the artist and the other one was flash in the pan, right? The shiny one. But I could see there was something really beautiful and special about her, but she said, well, no one really got behind me. And it's like, well, whoa, why couldn't you get behind yourself? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's it. Because she would have been a dancer. I look at her now and I just see the postures all still there. And it's just like, wow. And I remember her doing this, the White Swan solo, and she was so special.
Wow.
And I just didn't understand why you stopped. And she just, at 30, then realized, oh, I don't actually know why I stopped either. I just didn't feel like anyone was telling me that I was good enough. It's like, whoa, it's no. Like, we got to give students that power to put themselves into that position and go, I don't need someone saying you're good. You don't need that external validation. It's coming from inside. How much you want it. She did want it, you know? So yeah, I hear that story and I'm like, oh, wow. And there's plenty of those. You know, you just look at that person next to you and like, that's the one that my teacher thinks is going to make it. So I'm not that one. So I should just think about something else. It's like, no, you don't know. It's just like a race, you know, like Melbourne Cup. You don't know that one that's going to be coming down the side, you know, that dark horse. And that's where I'm always focused on that dark horse now. You know, those compy ones, they win everything. But you look at that one on the side with something super special, but you know it's coming. And you've got to, I find as a teacher, even if they're not my student, I have to go and tell them, you have something really special. Don't give up. don't think today was an example of where you're at. Your journey is coming. Yours is coming. Every dog has its day, sort of thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yep.
Yes. Also important to address probably why it's such a common theme at dance studios. And I think it really comes down to teachers professing their superiority to the kids, and that kids then become very almost dependent on validation, because there's that structure of which you do need to some extent, because they are your teacher. So they're teaching you a technique, a dance. But when it morphs into, like I am God, and everything I say is gospel, and you need to almost bow down to me, and you need to crave me, what I'm saying, for you to succeed. I think that's when it becomes very dangerous. That's what you'd call like a toxic relationship.
Yeah. I had
It's just, yeah.
I had a teacher who I had employed for a very short time, and it was the same thing. It was like she was the Pied Piper, and it was all about, and I identified it quickly. It was almost too charismatic, and she would take from the students. And I saw that when they were backstage, and instead of being there for them, she was laughing and becoming attention seeking. And I went, oh, wait. And that's not what teaching is. It's not about trying to get a following or trying to get fame. When you're actually a teacher, a really good teacher does take off their dance shoes in a way, metaphorically speaking, step to the side of the stage and facilitate the process of the star in their student to come out. So how can I, as a teacher, work on this individual getting their own shine and offering it to the audience, because it's all going to be so different and we're all so individual. And so for me, a good teacher can identify this student's a little bit more sensitive than that one. So this one might need a little bit more encouragement than this one. And having those conversations and realizing that we're not all the same. It's tricky teaching. It is an art in itself.
And I feel that exactly what you're saying. I see it too. And you know what it is? It's us bringing ourselves as a dancer into our teaching. Exactly what you said. We have to take those shoes off because we want to be loved. We want to be liked, and it's hard to be a teacher and think that they're not liking you. You're at the front. And I try and always explain to the students how I'm feeling on my side of it. Today, I don't want to teach you because I feel like you don't want to listen to me. I feel like you're not on my side today. You know what I mean? I tell them this sort of stuff and they look at me like, but you're just supposed to teach me. It's like, no, it's a two-way street. It's like it's a relationship. If you just want to be liked as a teacher, there's things we can do to get that validation, but that is not what we're there to do. That's exactly what you're saying. But you can feel that. And sometimes I look at other teachers and I'm like, oh, all the students like that teacher and they don't always like me like that. Like, should I do that? Should I start being a teacher like that to get that validation so I can go home and go, they all needed me today? I was like, and I just don't think that's the way. It's just, it's good. You've got to be super honest as a teacher and take off your ego, lose your ego, to get exactly what you're saying out of the students, what you need. But sometimes it works the opposite for a teacher because I've opened myself up and I haven't kept that wall of, distance, that shield I talk about. Because that everyone comes into the classroom with a different energy every day, a different color. And you know what I mean? And some days I can see a student and they're black and I'm afraid to go over to them and give them correction. And sometimes I have to go tell that student that what you're giving me is black. We need to talk about this. You know what I mean? And there's always a reason. There's always a reason. And giving the students that this is what we're trying to do with the brand is understand your feelings. And if you can verbalize them, then you can have that relationship with your teacher and you're going to go so much further with every teacher you work with if you can communicate how you're feeling.
Absolutely.
And it matters how you're feeling as a student. Sometimes you think it doesn't matter because I'm just me and that teacher is ruling this class thing.
And if you can't, I guess, have that type of relationship with your teacher, I would recommend probably finding another teacher.
Yep.
If you can't have that kind of honest, open conversation, they're probably not for you.
Yeah, I remember saying that to one of my coaches at the Australian Ballet. I was like, I'm 30 now. I don't need a teacher anymore. I actually need someone on my side. I need someone to tell me I'm going to be okay. I'm going to get through this. You know what I mean? It's like, and that's where, it's hard to work out where that student is at. Do they need a teacher, or as you said, or do they need just support through this hard time in their where sometimes it's not even about the dance, it's about their life. They're trying to get their lives on track. You know what I mean? And if you're thinking as a teacher, it's all about me and everything's happening in the studio, then you're not really thinking about the bigger picture here. And that's what, again, our brand is about, realizing there is more than just the dance. It's the whole package. It's your personal life, your feelings, your emotions, your trauma. And yeah, that is what you're trying to get all to come together as a dancer to make you strong enough to get through it.
Oh, I love it. And I absolutely love what you've crafted from your life experience and the way you are as true artists, bringing this into the next part of your creative journey. That's amazing. So where can we find Lunar the Brand?
We have a website, www.lunarthebrand.com, and we also are on Instagram. Yeah, those are the two places. And Facebook.
And Facebook. Okay, so we'll put some links in here. And you're going over to the Prix de Lausanne. You have someone special that you're watching.
Yep, Talia Samowski. She's from my studio that I teach at Queensland College of Dance. Yeah, she's also representing Australia, which I'm always really proud of all the Australians. I think it's really important for us teachers to realize that our students from Australia are all representing us as a country, and we're putting our best foot forward out on that international stage. So I am there for all the Australians that are going to the Prix de Lausanne this year, and I wish them all the best. But yeah, Talia, it's going to be a great journey for her, and it's such an important time and scary time. And with the brand Luna, we've been interviewing her, and it's been all about how you're feeling. How are you coping? How are you
combating stress, managing yourself, everything, all the things you need as a dancer. Yeah,
and hopefully other students can see that journey. Yeah, see the ups and the downs, and she's been quite honest, I think. And that's what we want to do too.
She's beautiful. I've been watching the videos, and stunning ballerina and beautiful hearts. It's been really nice that she can open up to the camera and have real conversations with you both. I can't wait to hear how she goes.
Yeah, you never know. It's a knife edge. It's such a pressure cooker that week, and you see all the students get pushed and rise and fall over the week. So it's I used to love watching it as a student, watching that pressure be put on them, and thinking myself, how the hell would I ever have done that? Because I would have really struggled in that situation. But watching these strong little dancers go out there and put it all out on the line, I think that they should all be commended. My hat's off to her to be able to achieve that at such a young age, that sort of height.
How old is she?
17, turning 18.
Wow.
Still young. I think that's really important to realize. There's so much more left ahead of you, that it's just one little step in your journey. You know what I mean? It's not, for some people, they think it's the be all and end all. It's just a competition. In the end, I told her it's just another show. Just go out there and just treat it like another show. I told my students, don't put that pressure on yourself. You're not going to get that result. You have to go out there with just that open mind, open heart, and remember you're just telling your story through your body again. Focus on that. But yeah, thank you so much for having us. I think we've definitely aligned with you because you're positive change for the future. As a brand, we are really open to people helping us to guide it in the right direction so that we can actually do what we are wanting to do. And yeah, I think this is for us the start of a big journey that I think will help us to heal, and we all heal together as an industry. Keep moving forward.
Oh, well, I wish you both every success, and we will be following your journey. And thank you for being open and having those honest conversations with me today. I really appreciate it. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks, Kate.
Thank you.